Okay, so I wanted to give you guys the test taking method that I've used over the years. I think I learned this about 20 or 25 years ago, and I wanted to give this to you. I think it's about 7 or 8 steps. Okay, so this method will work in school, whether it's elementary, high school, college, university. It'll work on nursing exams, realtor exams. Basically any multiple choice, bureaucratic, like formal type multiple choice test, this method works. It's a thinking process to help you get through the test, to think through the test. It's not cheating, it's just a thought process. So there's about 8 steps, and so just a couple of things to think about initially before you take the test. So you have to get rid of the mentality, which I used to have when I took tests like in high school, and that was if I had 1 hour and I had 60 questions in an hour, then I would think to myself, I have 1 minute per question, and I would basically, watch myself, and I would spend 1 minute on this question, go to number 2, I'd spend another minute on that question. So you have to get rid of that type of mentality where you're just thinking about you have a certain amount of time with each question. We're going to change the way we look at the test and the way we look at time on the test. So a couple other things to start now. You also have to be studied for your test. This is not a way to get around studying. You still have to study for the test, and you have to know the material. The other thing is you have to practice this method to become familiar with it, with the test taking process. So, get some practice tests, multiple choice practice tests. And this method you can't really apply it to like a math multiple choice test, although if it's a test that has multiple subjects, like for example, with the journeyman's exam and the realtor's exam, it's like a mixed subject type thing. So you're looking at some legal questions and trade questions and code questions, and then there's also some math questions in there. So on that type of exam, basically just skip all the math. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people are afraid of the math. Maybe they're not good at math, or the numbers kind of throw them off and stuff. But if you just forget about the math altogether, don't worry about it. I know in the electrical exam, you can actually skip and get all of them wrong and still pass the electrical exam. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do that as a whole, but that is a possibility to do that. So, okay, so let's begin here. So the first thing is step number 1. Step number 1 is to skip questions 1 through 5. So a lot of larger tests, the formal tests, they're going to put some difficult questions in the very beginning, either brain teasers or long word questions or questions that are confusing. The idea is to throw you off for the rest of the exam. So because some of these tests are like certifications or like state required tests, they want to know that you know the material. So they're going to try to throw you off a little bit. So just skip questions 1 through 5. Don't think about them. Don't look at them. So starting with question 6, we're going to use this process. So step number 2 is you're going to go through the test as quickly as possible. You're not going to look at the answers. You're just going to read the question. And if you know the answer, you're going to answer it. So we're not reading the questions and then the answers. We're just reading the question, and with the information that we can recall, because we've studied, you're just going to answer the question as quickly as possible. You're not thinking about anything. This is just, what do you do at a red light? You stop. Okay, so it's just questions that you know the answers to immediately. You're going to go through the entire test, starting with question number 6. Go through the whole thing as fast as possible and skip all the math questions. If you see numbers in a question, you just skip it altogether. Okay, so then you're going to go back through the second time, starting with question number 6. And when you look at it again, you're going to go through the questions again, and then you're going to read the answers, and then see if you can answer it that way. And then, so the second time you go through it, you're going to read the question and the answer. If you see the answer that is correct without thinking about it, you're going to answer all those questions, okay? So This is the second time you've gone through the test now, and you've seen the questions and the answers, but you're not spending time thinking about it. So this process here, the first 2 steps, is like using maybe less than a third to a half of the time on the entire exam. And so you probably, if you've studied, you should have 50 to 70% of the questions completed at this point. Okay, so now you're going to go through the test a third time, and this time you go through the test, you're going to look at the questions and answers, and if you need to spend a few minutes thinking about them, maybe cross-examining the question with other questions that you noted in the exam and other places of the exam, you can do that. Don't spend a lot of time just daydreaming or thinking about stuff, but if you need to kind of put some thought into it, then you're going to do that this third time. So after you've looked at the exam for 3 times now, you've gone through it relatively quickly, you're not wasting time on questions, and you're not just looking at the clock, you're using your time productively. So this is the 4th time you go through the exam. Basically, at this point, you're looking at questions that you have no idea what the answer is to, and so you can start making educated guesses at this point. So we're going to start kind of going into statistics or statistical answers. So the 4th time you go through it now, you're going to look at the question and answer, and you're going to choose the answer that is the longest written answer. So if there's a written out answer, you want to choose the longest answer, whichever one that may be. Okay, so now you're going to go back through the exam. If you're not sure if there is a longest answer, you're going to go through the exam again, and at this point you're going to look at all the choices of answers, and if you see an answer that says all of the above, none of the above, any of the above, you're going to choose that answer. If this is not available, in 4-part answers, you're going to choose answer C. In 5-part answers, you're going to choose answer D. The last 2 steps, once you've finished most of the exam, you're going to go back and do questions 1 through 5. So you've done everything in the exam, you've read the questions 3 or 4 times at this point, maybe even 5 times at this point. And then you're going to go back and do those initial questions 1 through 5. So they may be easy questions, but at least you've built up enough confidence to where if they're difficult questions, your memory has been refreshed with the other questions that you've seen, and you can do those first 5 questions and you still have plenty of time. And then if there is math that you've skipped, if there's math on the exam, you go back and spend the remaining time on the test. You can spend with the math. Just take as much time as you need. And that's it. So that's about 8 steps. And just practice that. You will need to practice it to think through it a number of times. So you do need to study and practice to get through the test. So it's really helped me kind of think through exams. And so I hope that helps you with whatever exam that you're looking for. So if you have any tips or pointers or additional information on test taking methods, just let us know here in the comments. You can shoot me an email. And also, this method is not mine. I didn't create it. I got it with a Realtor's test taking study guide or something. I don't know. I don't recall where I got it from exactly. So if you know who created it or where it came from, I'll be glad to share that. It's not my method, but I do like to use it. So anyway, hope that helps with test taking. Good luck with it, and have a good day.